y'all doing? This is Poetic JustUS podcast, and I am your host, Jen, and I am so excited to welcome my lovely guest for this evening, Miss Ashlee Connors. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing so wonderful. Even better now because I have been waiting for this day, okay? The first time I saw you on at City Soul as a feature, you absolutely blew me away. I was front and center, and it was just like, oh my guts. First of all, when you came in with outfit, I was like, hey, that's sis right there. That is sis, okay? And and then just hearing you speak was mind blowing. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about where you're from, because I know I hit the New Yorker in you. You know what I'm saying? But up north at least. But I know you mentioned something about Fayetteville. So tell me a little bit about where you're from.
So I am from New York, born and raised there. And when I was in high school, I moved to Georgia, where I met my husband, would-be ex-husband, turned ex-husband. And he joined the military, and he was stationed in Fayetteville. So I lived there for like a decade. And then when we decided that we didn't want to do marriage anymore, I wanted to stay in North Carolina. And I knew I did not want to be somewhere congested. So Greensboro was like the perfect fit at the time. So
yeah, kind of the median between it all. So just did y'all travel a lot, being that he was
we stayed in Fayetteville the entire time. He had temporary deployments where he would go, but we never, as we share a daughter, we never had to go. So
got you. So we're gonna get into this amazing book in just a minute, right? Because immediately, like I told you when we spoke, I was like, whoa, she went deep. Immediately, like no chaser. I'm not gonna wait.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna build you up.
Yes. No.
It's like we're gonna get to the thickens right away.
Right.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about, because when I think about myself and I see so much of myself in you, like I think that's why I was so drawn to you. And kind of coming out of the same phase as far as marriage, and I kind of see how you swallowed real hard. real hard when it came down to just talking about marriage and relationship.
Yeah.
How did that influence your just coming into a writer, or was it your fuel? Did it take away? Did it, you know what I mean? Like, what was the sort of relationship between your coming into writing and your relationship? Because a lot of what you talk about deals with your relationship, not only with your husband, with your mom, and we'll talk. Like I said, we're gonna get into it. But I just wanted to kind of.
So the other thing is, I am Caribbean. So I grew up in a Haitian American household, and there was a lot of don't speak unless you're spoken to. You should be seen, not heard. And so I've always written because that was the only place where I had a voice. And so then when I met my would-be husband turned ex-husband in college, it was like initially he presented himself, and I think we both presented ourselves as like this escape, right? Like this, okay, I'm looking for something, and the thing that I have been missing, you possess. And it was beautiful at the time, but what happens when it's not rooted in alignment with all the other facets is over time, it starts to get bitter. It starts to rot.
Right, that sounds like a codependency sort of developed.
It was. I just wanted out of where I came from, and he was definitely at the time a light, which isn't to diminish what we shared, because we had beautiful moments, but we also had terrible moments. So.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that 100%. So, like, because that. Us as women, it seems like we're so defined by our relationships.
We are.
Right? And it kind of shapes us as to who we end up being. And it's kind of weird that happens. Because when I think about my relationship, it was sort of the same sort of dynamic, except I was a fixer.
I am a fixer.
Yes.
And I remember in college, I would do some of his assignments. You know, like
that is the epitome of fixing right there.
I was gonna get him to that stage, you know, and while we dated, he does have another daughter, and even with that, I was the one being the impetus behind you need to have a relationship with your daughter. As someone whose biological father chose not to be in her life, I was not going to be associated with someone who would do the same, because I know the pain. I know what that looks like to live with. So, yeah, I was the fixer. In many ways, I think I like a project.
Ooh.
And that's my toxic trait.
Listen, that's so funny, because it's like that. It's like, I always say, satisfying others satisfies me.
Yes.
Like that, I get the satisfaction.
And then once you realize you got them on the right trajectory, it's like, oh, my job here is done.
Right.
I can peace out, you know?
So was that the breaking point for you, where you like?
Or it might have been when I told him I was gay. I mean, we can know these things.
Okay, yeah, we gotta talk about that too. We gotta get into that too. All right, so no, that kind of brings me to kind of a good segue to one of your poems.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it, but there was one that you talked about. Where the first one really was where you was speaking directly to your mom.
Yeah.
And that spoke to me so, like, internally, because I literally, when my mom was upset with me, and I hope she's not watching this one, but she was very upset with me at the fact that I finally, like, she was there for me. You know, we had this conversation, like, we when I was kind of going through it, right? But then when I was like, okay, I'm free. Like, I'm done. I have made a decision. Thank you, Mom. I'm going this direction. And it was kind of like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. You still got to play this role here. You got kids. You got this. You can't just make that decision. So when you were speaking about how the influence of your mom kind of played a role in how, you know, you saw this imagery of a marriage. Tell me a little bit about that, your relationship.
With my mom?
Yeah, with your mom, and how that kind of played a role in your
how
writing.
Deep do we want to go?
Oh, let's
okay.
Deep.
So,
deep.
You know, I really want to give y'all an abridged version. So, my mother married my brother's father. Yes, that is the correct term. Okay, so how deep we're gonna go? So she is like every sense of the word a devout Christian, and so I was raised to believe that his father was my father. Yes. And the way it came out that it was not the case was during one of their many volatile arguments. She brings me or calls me to the kitchen, and she's like, I have to tell you something. And she's just giving me this look. She's emotional. I had always been her emotional crutch growing up. But in this instance, I realized something's different here. And I'm a jokester. I do not do well in sad situations. I will tell an inappropriate joke because we need levity, right? You know? So I'm just rattling off things. And I think on the third mention or the third statement, I say, Daddy's not my daddy. And she just gives me this deadpan stare. And I'm like waiting for my mind to catch up to it. And she's not denying it. And the crazy part is I had written about those suspicions in my upbringing. I remember telling cousins I didn't feel like he was my father. So everything is just racing all at once. And that was at a time where I didn't feel like I fit in that family. I didn't feel it before, but then at that point it was glaring. Like everything makes sense now. And so writing has always been that safe haven. Like it was always where I could go and just pour and spill. And particularly when this thing happened, I don't even think I knew how to capture what I was feeling. How do you have words for something that you don't even fully understand? You know? So living up to her image, because I grew up hearing her telling me the way that I'm supposed to live, you know, sex before marriage. And when I did the math, I was like, the math ain't mathing because I'm older than y'all marriage. So what happened? Oh, we did it one time before we got married. Oh, is that what happened? You know? And so I started to realize I was living up to an image that she herself didn't even live up to. And so when I started to divorce myself from the idea of having her approval, the idea and the reality of having her approval, I started to realize this marriage isn't for me. And I remember telling her that, and she said, well, marriage isn't supposed to make you happy. Girl, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't subscribe to suffering for my life in my life. And I didn't want him to suffer anymore. We were miserable. Somebody felt that, child.
Definitely miserable. Very miserable. Very miserable. So yeah. So when we think about that, though, when we think about how our parents really, it's kind of like a do as I say not as I do, right? And same. I grew up with in a very vowed Christian background, and it was like, and I don't know where this idea comes from that you have to sacrifice your happiness to keep something whole when it's not working. Like, that's, I don't what
particularly with women, there's something synonymous with a Black woman that equates to suffering. Like, you have to endure this, because we see it. We see it time and time again. Do you remember, there's a pastor in South Carolina, I think his name is John Gray, perpetually cheats on his wife. And I guess the last time that went viral for whatever reason, and it's like, all he does is praise, oh, you've walked me through this, you've raised me. It's not my job to raise you.
It's not. It's
and
absolutely not.
And for some reason, there's that pressure as a woman to raise.
And to raise grown men.
To raise grown, I don't know that I want to say that. To raise men who are in adult bodies. And when you find how emotionally inept they are, you try to do the work for them. The overextending, another toxic trait of mine. We're going to hear all of them tonight.
Yes. When you said, I'm trying to find it because it's so many. Like, it was so many that I just could not. It was like I was overwhelmed with all the things that really hit me. But there was one that you said, Black girl, not Black girl magic, Black girl healing. No, was it Black girl?
Let me see.
Which one was that? Yes, because it I was like, oh my God, it's like, do away with the idea that we have to have this sort of
Black girl blessing.
That's because we're constantly blessing people.
Constantly. We are taught how to.
And the poem is day 11, by the way.
Pour endlessly into others and often martyr ourselves for their wellness. Even like coming here today, I was like, how am I going to make it to Fayetteville and over here? Like, how?
Yeah, when at some point you got to just be human, right? You got to say I'm human, all right? Yeah. And that was one thing that I talked about on one of my posts, was that we walk around with our cup half empty and trying to look at it as though that we should be optimistic and saying that,
look at it,
it's half full. No. Like, no, my shit got to overflow.
I'm tired.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And if it's half empty, that means I'm giving you half of
replenish.
Me.
Right. And we are so used to running on fumes that we don't even know what it looks like to be full.
Girl, listen. Sleep in the car.
Yes.
For real. And okay, so there was another one in here, right? Because I really want to just dig into your book, because there were so many things that touched me. And if you guys haven't gotten this book, please look, check it out. It's called Growing Pains. A phenomenal book. And I know you got some others that you're working on.
We're not going to talk about those. But the ones I'm working on, yes, we can talk about those, because I'm a better writer now. But this book is probably the one where I'm most proud of, because I allowed myself to go there with everything I was dealing with everything I wanted to become or shed.
Absolutely.
You can find it on Amazon, by the way.
Yes, it's absolutely amazing. And like I said, soon as the first one was just like, wow, like, you're gonna want to keep reading. Right. So it said one right here, I wanted to quote it. It says, I admit I crowned myself as God, believing miracles lie within my fingertips. And that's another thing with that whole idea. Let me read the whole thing so they can get the context. I'm afraid if I stay in this relationship, one day I will not recognize myself. I've dedicated much of my time, offered up resources, too often coming up empty. Again, going back to that idea that we are the sort of the oasis of everybody else's.
Right.
I used to think about how people would come, particularly, men would come and they kind of pour their garbage off on you, and then you have to kind of hold on to it and then deal with your stuff and figure out how to balance their stuff. And where do you find your, other than writing, I'm gonna say other than writing, because we have different elements of ourselves, right? Where do you find your way to balance that? Because there is always going to be a time in which, you want to kind of be there for someone, right? And your projects, right? And that you want to work on them.
Yes.
But then how do you find a balance in saying to yourself, what is the breaking point for you?
I had to start saying I do not want to be a rehabilitation center anymore. And saying it out loud. It's not enough to just say it in your mind. It's not enough to write it. You have to say it out loud. You got to look in the mirror, and you have to understand the weight of what it means to carry that, right? And to say, I'm a person who attracts broken people, right?
What's your sign?
I'm an Aries.
Ah, yes. Aries is a great sign.
And I just had to start saying out loud, I don't want this for myself.
What do you think that is? Like, why do you think people are drawn, those dysfunctional sort of people are drawn to?
Because I'm a healthy girl. But no, I honestly think it's, it's an energy thing. Energies attract, right? And so in the same way I can attract people who are dealing with their own toxic stuff or are sick in whatever ways, I can also attract people who are like-minded. And again, we talked earlier about liking a project. So if I put that out in the universe, if I put that out to God, guess what? I'm going to keep attracting people who need fixing.
Yeah.
And the cycle doesn't stop until I say, I don't want that anymore. What I want is generative conversation. I want to be around like-minded people who aren't just going to come and say, what can you do for me? Let's talk about symbiotic relationships. How can we be mutually beneficial to each other?
And listen, the word usage.
Oh, Lord, I'm sorry.
Listen, why you over there articulating? I had to pinpoint that because I was in there like, hold on, let me look.
Did you have to use a dictionary? Because that's my thing.
I had to go to the dictionary a couple times on this one for real, because I was like, wow, she's dropping some for real. But I love it though. I love it because that it, it makes it so you have to expand.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm going to use some words, but you better learn. I do that with my students all the time. I use big words because that then becomes your vocabulary.
It broadens their horizons.
It does.
Like, it's okay for you to say sad, but I want you to know
Ooh,
morose.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I want you to know sorrowful.
I say there's words in between sad and happy. There's a lot of ways to describe
lethargic. We want to teach different levels, right? Because in sadness there are different levels. So let me teach you something.
Oh man, gosh. So tell me, you have a daughter?
I do. She's 10 years old.
10. Oh, I have an 11-year-old. That's awesome. I was gonna say we have a lot in common.
Yes.
And so you write a lot about your daughter, and one of the pieces in here that I appreciated as well was, I think it's. I don't want to flip through pages the whole time, but
is it Breaking to Repair?
Well, one was Playtime.
Oh yes,
that one touched me a lot.
Yes.
I have a daughter who just recently, and I haven't really put this out there yet, but she was recently diagnosed with high functioning autism.
Okay.
And so this one really pulled my emotional strings with that. When it comes down to how they're innocent.
Yes.
And that how that is, we don't realize we need it, and how the children tend to lead us in the direction of that, embracing that. And so speak to me about this poem and a little bit of how it was inspired by your daughter, and telling me a little bit about your daughter.
So
the poem is called Playtime, by the way.
First of all, I'm gonna have to look at it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Who knows what mood I was in? Oh yes, I love this poem.
It's a beautiful piece, man, and it was a good way to kind of close out some of the real
yes.
yeah.
So there's a fearlessness that lies in kids. It's an innocence and a fearlessness that lies in kids that I absolutely adore. They don't understand the jadedness of this world. I once heard that children are the closest thing to God. So you know what that means is they see the good in everything before they even can process the dangers. And I think I had become so cynical to like human nature. I will call myself a misanthrope. I don't like people. I don't like people because people are shitty. But that's not everybody. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us are just walking around hurt. And I think what I saw in my daughter, what I observe in her is that she sees past that hurt. She sees the core of the person. She sees their light. And I think we are trained as we get older to only see people by their darkness, to only focus on their darkness. And so when I watch her, when I observe the way that she just comes into a room and says, I'm going to make you my friend.
Yeah.
Because I don't do that. I will sit in the corner and I'm going to be looking with the screwed face because for why? You know what I'm saying? I have enough problems. I don't need to be invited.
We have guards.
Yes.
We have those guards.
Kids don't have that guard.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the challenge is how do I make her aware without making her so scared?
Scared, right. Yeah.
It's a delicate balance.
It is, because you want to protect them too.
Yes.
You know, and that's one thing that I struggle with. And like when you was talking about how she embraces you and it automatically when we're walking, I'm in my zone, but I always can count on my daughter grabbing my arm no matter what.
To bring you back to the present.
Right. And
because we have a million things that are going through our minds. Like I always describe my mind as a computer with different tabs open and running at all the times. And it is exhausting.
It is. Because
even when I'm resting, I'm working.
Mine is going. Absolutely. So let me ask you a question about just what else, like what are some different things that you actually have? Are you just writing? Are you writing full time, or are there other
Girl, I wish
endeavors?
I was writing full time. So I
those tabs. What are those other tabs?
Those other tabs. So the big girl job that pays my bills and pays my insurance. I work for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina.
Ah, nice. Okay, cool.
And then I also host workshops. I do one-on-one. I edit work. Of course, I poet, sometimes on a good day. Yeah. So anything like dealing with creative writing, like that's my niche, and that's what I love to do. I feel like last week I told you, because you invited me somewhere and I had to go to A&T and I did a poem, and that, like, I get so full off of that, and that is my goal, to work towards that full time. But when you're trying to establish your artistry, particularly in this field, there's not a lot of people that see value in it, but they see value in it.
Right.
And it's annoying. Like, you see the value of my presence, but you don't see the value to pay me.
Right. And that was my next thing. Like, how do you?
Girl, I'm anticipating now.
And especially for women, like women, a lot of times it's a lot different when it comes down to negotiating your value. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was asked to do a feature, and I was like, man, I'm not sure. I doubted myself to say that I'm not sure how to put a price
because
on
something
me.
that is innate. I was born with this. How do I put a dollar amount to it? But we gonna learn, right? We gonna learn. We are already like decades behind, or eons behind our peers that don't look like us because of the financial literacy thing. And so now I'm going to be even more behind because I don't know my worth. Like, so I have tried, well, not tried, I have created like a formula. How long have you been doing this? What are they asking of you? How much travel? Like, you have to consider all of that because I am a professional in every sense of the word, and what I do costs. It is valuable. You need it. And I get to a point, I still have people trying to offer me things for exposure. And I've gotten to, and I feel like I'm in this season where I have to say no, because I don't always have the best way to uphold my boundaries. So I say no. And
So, no is a complete sentence.
it is a complete
sentence.
And
I'm glad you didn't tell me no, though.
No, I wouldn't have. No.
Glad you didn't tell me.
This was divine.
Yes, I really believe that, because like I said, when I felt your energy, and it was just like, I really don't think you understand quite, how like it impacted me so much. Like I was literally in tears. I don't know if you saw that, but and so I was just like, oh, I got to do something, So tell me, this is written sort of like a memoir.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you when you are looking at poetry versus creative writing, how do you kind of distinguish which direction you want to go?
So I think it's about the season that you're in, right? Like my next project that I visit and revisit, I feel like I just want to do a compilation of everything in between. Like I have these short thoughts that are absolutely like prose like, or they read like a poem rather, but then I have these like short stories that is more, geared towards creative writing. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I package that, because they're all dealing with the same theme, but the way in which they need to be told, I'm led this way. And so I think as an artist, I'm just learning to give myself permission to go where the art is leading me. It will be focused, yes, but if this piece does not call for it to be a haiku, or it doesn't call for it to be a poem, it needs to be a short story, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing I think that I've learned as an artist is the art don't fail you. We fail it. We fail it daily with lack of discipline, the imposter syndrome. When I'm in my bag and I'm focused, I just ooze poetry. I just ooze creative writing. I just have to surrender to it.
Ooze.
Yeah.
Look. We had to marinate on that one a little bit.
Yes.
So tell me about, I know you talk about, sexuality and because that again is a big part of our womanhood, right? And who we are and establishing who we are, who we love. Tell me a little bit about that. Where in the space that you're in, just not necessarily like your preference. We don't have to go there, but just how you transition into realizing that, oh, this is it. This is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm gonna go with.
Okay. So I read a post that talked about fitting in versus belonging, and I have spent the entire, like my upbringing was about fitting in spaces that I did not belong. And what that means is basically shrinking, cowering, erasing parts of yourself because, oh, Bible says so, mommy says so, daddy says so, my ex-husband said so. Me being a mother dictates that. And so when I took a step back to really consider, what does it mean to belong without having to apologize or erase or shrink or cower or erase, I was able to really explore, I'm not happy here. I'm literally dying. And it had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with me. And so when I spoke that honest, because he was the first person I came out to, my ex-husband. And when I said it,
ooh, how did that? Ooh,
it was in a restaurant.
I would be a fly on the room with that kind of.
It was in a restaurant. I was like, "Look, you ain't gonna be mad at me at this restaurant. We gonna do it in the public eye." And
was he mad though?
I think there was a mixture of emotions. I don't know if mad is the correct word, the correct emotion, because it's like we had been having so much problems leading to that point. So it was like, this makes sense. If anything, there might have been some confusion because, when you grow up Christian, you adapt or adopt those beliefs. And let's just say a lot of what I spewed was because I felt like I needed to denounce that part of myself. And so he's like, you the same person that said God created Adam and sir, I was a different person then. What we not gonna do? So, I had to gather him because I gathered myself. Like when you are running away from things that is a part of you, you're gonna keep running into it.
Yep.
You're gonna keep running
and tripping
into
over it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's what happened. And so it was that conversation. And once I had it with him, I was like, well, if I can do this,
I bet that felt really freeing.
Liberating.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine, because I remember having that conversation with my other. That's not other anymore. But But no, I mean, we have a good relationship,
Yes.
right? And we co-parent better than we,
Same.
cohabitate. So,
Yes.
but at the end of the day, it was like, I can't do this no more.
Right.
And my thing was talking to him about having an open relationship.
Yes.
Can we try
That's
that?
what I started.
Yeah.
I was like, let's do this in levels.
Yeah.
And
The
I
levels.
tried to. He wasn't for that.
Yeah. So, and from there, I was just like, okay, well, I guess I just have to make a decision, and I had to choose me. So I completely like understand that how just like shedding that could be, and just knowing that you can walk away without any hard feelings,
Yeah. And initially, those feelings are there because it's like, we invested X amount of years. And so he definitely had those feelings. And I was just like, but at the same time, the time that we're putting here, we're literally hurting each other.
Yeah.
This does not make sense.
It really doesn't.
Again, I didn't co-sign or agree to suffering here. I'm not going to do that. When did I decide that my life should be one that is suffering?
What is your spiritual background? Like, what's your like, because I hear you talk about, how, like you said, it was like Christian.
Yes. So Haitian Baptists, and they don't play. It was very, very strict, very rigid, almost to the point where I felt like I couldn't mess up. And because of that, I messed up a lot. Because it was unrealistic expectations. And I think when I started to realize that the church itself was imperfect, I was just like, why am I doing this? I was heavily into church, and I remember I had a friend. She identified as being atheist, and I just couldn't fathom, like, what do you mean? I love God. What's wrong with you? And so I brought her to the Friday program, and we're all in this circle, and she ends up feeling safe enough to share that she's an atheist. And their response in that moment, I think, opened up my eyes to some of the horrors that exist in church. It was as if they thought she was a demon. And I was so ashamed, because I was like, oh no, not this church. It's not going to be like that. And they were like that.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. And I think that was my point, because I used to be Bible study every Wednesday, Sunday, repast, all that, you name it. But one particular instant where I would just, kind of started to explore my spirituality more. And I was at Bible study, and I said, hey, if there's so many other religions, like, why is this one the right one?
Why is this one the right one?
Yeah. And they were like, the other ones are the devil. And I was like, wait, hold up. What? That's your final answer? We're in Bible study now. We get into the scriptures.
Right.
And that was his answer. And so for me, it kind of just like, I was just like, come on, really? I was just really let down by the lack of intellect and
the rhetoric. The rhetoric is so harmful.
It is. It's very harmful.
It makes you go out in the world judging people if they don't think, speak, look like. And I'm like, there's no way. Not the God that I serve. Because that's not the impression that I get.
Yeah.
How can you say he says come as you are, but then me coming as I am is not enough? He created me. Exactly.
Well, they are giving us the wrap it up tags, but we can go on forever and ever. Oh my gosh, man. I got to invite you back. I am so thankful that you made it here today, and I appreciate you so much. And yeah, go ahead and shout out any projects that you got coming up. Let our audience know how to find you. Okay. Of course, you're already well known, but for those who are new to tuning in, and anybody you want to share some of your projects with, go ahead and let everybody know what you're doing, what you got going on.
Okay, so once again, my name is Ashlee Connors. That is 2 E's, no Y. The Connors is ORS, not an ERS. You can find me on Facebook. Instagram, it's Adaverna. Don't ask, just find it. ADAVERNA. You can also find my book, Growing Pains, on Amazon.
Yes, buy the book. Amazing.
Yeah, you should. You should buy the book. I think I did my thing. If you are a person or an organization that wants workshops, like that's me. I'm your person. If you are someone that wants your stuff looked at for editing, heavy or just a read through, that's me. Let's see what else. Projects that I'm working on. I can't tell y'all, but I do want you to know your girl is working on projects, and absolutely. I am working on another book.
And the working on the project. Okay, yes. We see you in the gym. Yes. She be getting it in.
I'm trying.
Yes, and you look amazing, by the way. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Poetic Just Us. You know how to find me, Jen_just_right. That's JEN_JUS_WRIT. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Jen, and we are done. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for coming. Me. Oh my God. You. We got to do the fingers.
Oh, the nails.
Yes, and the nails. Yes.